Joining us now, Joel Rubin, a national security expert and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under President Obama. Joel, always good to see you. Welcome back.
You too, Hannah. Good morning.
Good morning. This week, U.S. officials met with Ukrainian and European representatives to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine. We're talking territorial concessions and other aspects of this plan. Now it's Russia's turn. What do you think will come out of these talks?
Well, these are talks that, as you just laid out, have behind them Russian aggression that continues. Yesterday, Vladimir Putin gave an end-of-the-year press conference, a 4-hour marathon, where he talked about how he, let's call it pinky promised he wouldn't invade the West if they somehow, quote, respected Russia. So it's still the same old Russia, the same old Putin. And that makes these talks very difficult because we aren't seeing a change in Russian behavior. We also are seeing Europe step up. Over $100 billion in loan guarantees were provided to Ukraine by the Europeans. And that's a strong statement that Ukraine is getting the backing it needs. But I think we need to do more. I think the United States, we need to pass more aggressive, firm sanctions on Russia and really let Vladimir Putin know that he can't have it both ways, that he can't get a negotiation, as Secretary of State Rubio describes, and then still bomb Ukraine and threaten Europe after it.
You mentioned that President Putin held his annual press conference. He did say he wants to see peace without any military conflicts in the next year. But at the same time, he said the Kremlin would achieve its military goals if Ukraine does not agree to Russia's condition when it comes to peace talks. So what does this tell you about where Putin is and how that could impact negotiations moving forward?
Well, look, Hannah, the bottom line here is that if he wanted peace, he would stop the invasion right now. He is on Ukrainian territory. Russia has been aggressing for the last 3 years, if not over, quite frankly, the last decade. And what he wants is he wants capitulation by Ukraine and Ukraine to hand over territory that Vladimir Putin, has not been able to capture on the battlefield. And so this will continue as such until the message is clear that Ukraine is not for sale and that Russia is not going to continue to threaten its neighbors. And I think that's the concern I have with the negotiations, is that we're not taking a firm line enough on Russia. We're sort of acting as if they're an equal belligerent to Ukraine, whereas they're the aggressor and Ukraine is the victim. And we need to lean more on the Ukrainian side against the Russian position.
Joel, does anyone think this is a good deal besides Russia?
No, not yet, no. But look, I do want to say, and I will give them credit, that the administration is trying to find a negotiation. I'm putting out recommendations on how I believe it should proceed to get to that point. And it's very important that we get a deal. But no, nobody sees a good deal yet. And I think that's why we saw the Europeans put in more money. They're in this for the long run. And that's why we see Vladimir Putin, quite frankly, still striking, because he doesn't think he's getting what he needs either. So right now, we're not really seeing either side happy with what's being offered.
Let's switch to Venezuela, Joel. You and I talk about that as well. Yeah. President Trump told NBC he is not ruling out the possibility of war with the South American country. What signals will you be looking for in the coming days and weeks from the United States when it comes to Venezuela?
You know, the danger, Hannah, with the logic train that we're on right now regarding Venezuela is that the invasion becomes sort of let's call it a self-fulfilling prophecy, where we're sending in the massive number of naval assets as you've discussed, and we've discussed about a quarter of our global naval assets now towards Venezuela. And the intent is to squeeze President Maduro to get him to leave voluntarily. And that's likely not going to happen. These dictators don't just walk away because they're worried about how the feelings are, their feelings are kind of going to get hurt if they stick around. And so this then means that the president is going to have to decide, does he have a red line or does he really want to go all the way? Because he's going to get dragged into that military invasion logic. We've seen it before. It's happened over time. And this is what worries me, is that it is not a very well-designed policy or plan for what to do if we do invade either, and nor is there any congressional authorization for this. So we're on a slippery slope here on this Venezuela policy, and I don't quite see what's going to stop it.
As you know, Trump ramped up pressure on Maduro by ordering a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers coming and going from Venezuela. What does your experience tell you about that action, Joel? How likely could this one decision quickly escalate tensions with Venezuela, not only Venezuela, but also our allies?
Well, you know, look, Hannah, mistakes can happen at sea. People can get killed. These could be, while we are interdicting and taking down ships and craft that are sanctioned, it's quite possible we'll get the wrong ones. And it could be procedures in active war by those on the other side. So this is really ratcheting up the physical pressure on Maduro, but also in the region, and creating tensions that only lead one to assume that the policy is regime change. This is not a policy where it's designed, and these are not designed to stop drug trafficking. Quite frankly, the drugs coming from Venezuela are not the ones that are most harming Americans. The fentanyl crisis, it doesn't come from Venezuela. And so I think we're really putting ourselves into a position where accidents can happen, strikes can happen, and the military first policy, rather than a diplomatic pressure policy, is what we're envisioning and what we're witnessing. And again, I have to say it, without congressional authorization and without clarity by the president that this is really what he wants. He wants a regime change in Venezuela.
Joel Rubin, I always appreciate your expertise, appreciate your time. And if I don't
Thanks
see you,
much,
happy
Anna.
holidays.